What have you seen in terms of change across the businesses that you mentor, but also the Marketing Society, since 2020, how leadership has changed? What are the common themes or trends you're seeing?
It's very complicated because you've got lots of different points of view on what should be happening when it comes to ways in which people work. So not getting into that so much. I think we've had, certainly in the UK and the US, there's been a lot of pressure for everybody because of it's not even so much pandemic related, it's geopolitical and economic challenges mean there is pressure on everybody. And the challenge with when you talk about pace is that sometimes people use pace as a panic button because the business isn't doing well. So they're like, got to go faster, got to make that happen. And I do think the very best leaders have allowed themselves the time to work out what legacy are they building for their businesses for the long term, not just panicking and cutting and making things happen. And I do think there is an increased appreciation of the importance of making sure we aren't just looking down at our spreadsheets and looking at our own categories, but looking up and around to learn from others. So the smartest people understand the power of networks and communities and tribes and learning from others. Having said that, the senior leaders that I deal with are under so much pressure for time and find it so difficult. So the more we can do to help with ideas and insights, with podcasts, with sharing what we're doing as a community, the more we can help everybody have different perspectives which help them in their everyday work. Yeah. So I think there's been definitely a trend to that understanding that we need to keep learning and connecting post-pandemic, where we're up and out and talking to people, but definitely not easy.
No, it's not easy at all. But that sense of purpose, I think, is a really big part of that. And I'm interested in how, you're a very busy person. You do a lot of different things. You're traveling around the world and whatnot. How do you stay so clear on your own sense of purpose when you have got so much going on?
Well, I've been lucky in that I've worked with a number of people across the years who've helped me understand what purpose can do. And when you work in marketing, the whole purpose conversation gets very complicated because it means so many things to different people when it comes to purpose marketing. But what I mean by a clear sense of mission, vision, what motivates me, and spending time with it. So my book Love Work I wrote with Ben Renshaw, who writes and speaks about purpose from a leadership point of view all the time, so that's very helpful. So I do some regular reflection points across the week, across the year, to make sure that I am moving with velocity, fast but in the right direction, checking where I'm going, and that really, really helps. So I do at the start of the year, I do a year compass, and I've set some goals for myself this year, which are threefold. So one is around the business, one is around what I've been doing to share ideas on leadership and moving fast, because it's really motivating for me to continue to do that, and the other is around health, family, fitness, the personal side of it all. So I've been looking at drive, shine and thrive as 3 areas. So setting that direction, but then also building in the measures to make sure that you are continuing to achieve on your goals can help an awful lot. And just being surrounded by people who challenge you, who know what you're trying to do, who can have conversations, can also help, especially if you haven't got a direct boss, which often entrepreneurs or business leaders don't. I have brilliant boards who help me, and I have but I have an accountability group of friends who know what I'm trying to do, and that really helps as well.
So you put yourself in that environment where you can succeed because you have accountability of people trying to help you.
And people who are interested in the same type of things. So I have different types of friends who give different, in different ways, but work-related friends who are sort of your tribe can really challenge you, I think.
But that's even more important because most people they're like, I've got an accountability group, and they go there and it's about business, but no one's looking after their health, or vice versa. This book, so Love Work, is effectively about something that most business owners don't want to talk about, which is their emotions in business, right? They want to get away from that as much as possible. Was there a time, or was there something that happened that you decided then to write about them in the same sentence, in the same book, bringing that all together, business and emotion?
The personal experience of having moments where I absolutely adored work, where it made me feel zingy and alive and loved up. And then other times when I felt like I was in a toxic relationship, where I was trapped, where I felt unfulfilled and not me at all. And being able to have those different experiences and wanting to understand it more led to me deciding, when Ben approached me and said, let's write this book together, I wanted to understand how I could help other people more around it. And we deliberately chose the title Love Work, which people roll their eyes at sometimes. Work is not a spa, let's be clear. Holidays are always going to be lots more fun in lots of ways to many people. But I do know that, like in relationships, a terrible relationship versus a good relationship, work is one of the most important relationships we will ever have in our lives. So finding ways to discover or recover a better relationship is not just about your boss and your workplace. So it's very easy to go, I'm miserable, I'm leaving. But in our research and our conversations with people, we've discovered ways in which people completely reinvent how they feel about work when they're in that situation where they can't leave for certain reasons. One of the moments when I felt really trapped in work, I didn't have the choice. Well, of course you always can, but I didn't want to leave for logical reasons, but I needed to find ways to recover a more positive way of looking at it. And of course we need to understand emotions. We go back to this bit of human understanding. Know thyself and understand why you can be with other people who love the situation they're in and you don't. And it's either you're in the wrong place, the wrong relationship, or you need to work at it. In the same way as romantic relationships really do need to be nurtured and thought about and to try different things. You can do that with your relationship with work. You can find ways to evolve it. It's really exciting to know that you aren't just trapped, that you have some agency and power, but it is your choice as well.
So what should someone do if they're listening to this and they feel like they are in a toxic relationship with their employer or with their manager? We're this side of the quiet quitting trends. We've gone past this where people are just doing less work to fulfill their contract, or there's obviously a massive trend of people in their 20s just staying at a job for 1 year, moving on, bumping up their salary. What is your understanding or advice to someone who does feel like they're in a toxic relationship, but like you said, they're trapped and they can't work, they want to nurture it? What should they be doing? What should they be thinking about?
There's lots of different choices depending on what they ultimately want. So let's go back to this purpose point. Your purpose, find your fuel. What is your purpose? What do you want to get out of it all? What is the role that work plays for you? So there's lots of questions in there. Part of the reason I felt trapped is that I wanted work to be a positive place. People feel differently about that. But if you understand more about you, what motivates you, gives you energy, and what your purpose is, you can shape and craft roles. Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis from Amazing If talk about job crafting as a phrase. I think it's a common phrase, and it is brilliant. You can absolutely go back and talk about, I want to evolve my role. I've seen it happen really successfully. There are side hustles, there are projects inside organisations, there are things you can do which will give you energy and fuel. But if you sit there passively waiting for it to come, then of course it won't change. In the same way as if you're in a relationship and you complain that your partner is not doing anything that's right, but you're not communicating it or expressing what you need. If you think about love language, right, which people talk about a lot, what's the equivalent at work? What is it that you need? How are you communicating it and how can you shape it? There is always something that can be done. It's quite hard when you're just thinking about it in your own head and playing with it. So I'd go back to this point I made about how I am helped by a tribe, a group of people. Who are the people who'll just be your sounding boards that you could talk this through with? It's great if you've got a coach. Not everybody has that luxury, but there'll always be somebody who'll listen. And Chris Barris-Brown, who's from Upping Your Elvis, has released an app called Talking It Out, which allows you to just talk. So you could do it to yourself, you could do it to ChatGPT, you could do it to a friend, actually talking through, and there are some steps in the book, and I'm not trying to sell the book, but there is a way of doing it, where you can work your way through and find your fuel, what motivates you, see what your possibilities are, play with the options, and it always comes back down to the key question, what are your choices here? What are your options? When you start laying it out, you can then realise that you have so much more agency. And I honestly be inspired by what other people can do. It's like listening to the podcast and hearing stories of what other entrepreneurs can do. There is always something possible to figure out, and there is always a way to change and improve your life.